Hi everybody. Today's video is going to be in a different style that I usually have made. I just got this whiteboard and I thought this would make for a fun way to make a video. So I had an idea to make this video about the spiritual awakening effects on your life. And so I'm going to start this video by explaining this definition of spiritual awakening, which is true self-discovery. In other words, it's dropping the illusion of ego. So I'll explain that. When we're born, we are born into a system of beliefs and a system of just things, the way humans live, and it kind of depends on your family and your friends how your life goes. So they're going to affect you in so many ways and influence you and shape you. So, a spiritual awakening, it's kind of been made out to be a bad thing, but it's really the best thing that could ever happen to you. Because what's happening in a spiritual awakening is you're discovering your true self. You're realizing that the world is an illusion and what the world has made you be is an illusion. That might sound kind of shocking, but I will explain it in this video. So I'm going to go over the effects that a spiritual awakening will have on your life. And you will notice these if you are going through an awakening. So it's kind of a test. It's kind of a quiz. Not really quiz, but it's going to show you ways that you can look at your life and say, I'm going through that. Or that sounds like something that I should do. So hopefully this helps you. So the first one on this list, and I'm going to explain that these are in no particular order, they're just randomly thought of. Okay, so the subject of music. Here's how I knew that I was going through spiritual awakening when it came to music. When I was young, I listened to everything that my mom listened to, everything that my friends listened to, everything that the radio played. It was rock. It was, kind of a variety of stuff, but mostly rock. As I grew older, and especially in my spiritual awakening time, which was, I don't know, I'd say late 30s and up till now in my 40s, I would say that my music tastes have completely changed, and not only has my taste changed, but the purpose that music serves in my life has changed. So let me explain that. Um, my music tastes have changed in that instead of listening to the heavy, hard stuff that's always about drugs, sex, rock and roll, and those sorts of things, now I want to listen to music that's about making my life better, about being creative, about the world, about consciousness, about spiritual things. And the style of music has also changed. Instead of wanting to listen to the fast-paced, hard, you know, stuff that I used to like, now I want to listen to music that puts me into a different mindset, puts me into a different brain state. So music that will put you into a trance is kind of what I'm going for here, like meditative music, um, steady drumming that the Native Americans would play. Those are things, and this brings me to the purpose that music plays in my life. I noticed that when I was younger, music would play a role of entertainment. I mean, I enjoyed listening to it, but it also entertained me. When I went to concerts, I just wanted to get up there and look at the band and get drunk and just lose myself in the music. But now I've noticed that music has taken on a different role. I don't listen to it for entertainment anymore. I enjoy music for the purposes of expanding my consciousness. I've been more into music that um, has a certain frequency. So I listen to a certain kind of music when I'm meditating, and I use it for the feeling that it gives me. I no longer want to listen to music in the background. I don't have music playing. Like I will never probably play my entire iTunes playlist in the background just because it's there. I I specifically seek out certain songs at certain moments for certain reasons. I also have noticed that I don't listen to music in the car as much. I mean, I do when it's something I'm really into at the time or I'm getting excited to see a band or whatever. But now I've noticed that I've kind of drifted away from listening to music for that kind of reason, and I've been more wanting to listen to podcasts and interviews and audiobooks. So that's something you'll notice if you're going through a spiritual awakening, that your music tastes will change, the reason you listen to music will change. And I wanted to say also about concerts. I mean, that was my thing. I've probably been to 200 concerts. But now, rather than going to a concert, I would prefer going to music festivals, and specifically music festivals that are playing conscious music, uplifting music, music that's meant to make you think about yourself and go within and change your life and change the world. So I love going to festivals now, and they're outdoor festivals. So, and this I'll go over in another section here that um, about being outside, but that music outside is a whole different dimension from music inside bars and indoor venues. So I'll get into that more later. I'm going to move on to the next one now, which is kind of related to music, and that is movies. So growing up, and even in my 20s and 30s and teens, I watched movies of all sorts of genres, um, horror movies, action movies, thrillers, anything that would entertain me. And this is something I wanted to say about movies is that, most people look at movies as entertainment, which is what they're kind of made for. But as you go through a spiritual awakening process, you kind of realize that you don't want to have the experience of some of these movies on your in going into your senses. So the feelings that you get from movies, you're going to start getting more picky about them. When you're spiritually awakening, you don't want to feel things like fear and suffering and anger, which are a lot of things that you will feel when you're watching certain movies. So I've kind of noticed that more and more time goes by, I want to watch less and less regular movies. I want to expand my knowledge, so I really been into documentaries, movies that are spiritually based are also good for that. Basically, anything that makes me feel good, anything that makes me laugh, anything that makes me learn. And so that's kind of something else too about the whole media thing. And I'm going to write the next one on this list because it goes along with this and that's books. Movies, music, and books are media, and they either serve a purpose of entertaining you or informing you, educating you. And books are a good way to kind of tell where you are on the spectrum. If you like, if you like reading fiction books and movies are pretty much the same category because they're just entertaining you for that time. And as far as books goes, the books that I have, I've kind of noticed that, I never used to be a reader. I never liked reading, But that's because I didn't know that nonfiction books existed. I thought they were all fiction. I thought, well, who wants to sit and how does your life get better from reading a book that's not going to help your life? And this is where it comes down to whether or not you're going through an awakening or not, because if you're not, you're going to say, well, I want to read this book because it's a good story. And it is true. And these books serve a purpose. But as you're going through an awakening, it's the whole point of it is dropping the illusion of ego and discovering your true self. And those are things that you want you want things that are going to help you along that path, which are books that are going to, the ones that are going to teach you something. So I would say that 99% of the books that I own are all educational books or books about spiritual subjects. You're going to notice that those are what you are drawn to. So on the subject of media, with all three of these listed here, if you notice that you're gravitating more towards the educational side of these subjects, that's a good sign. And you're kind of going to look at the old ones and kind of feel like they were empty. Um, so that's a good sign that you're going through a spiritual awakening when you notice those things. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here with this next one. It's not a media, it is free time. So what I want to go over about this one is your free time will become extremely precious and valuable as you go through your spiritual awakening. So when you're younger, you're going to be hanging out with your friends, you're going to do things that everybody does, and you're not going to think anything about it. And this also might go into just getting older in general, but I think it's also true for spiritual awakening people. Um, their free time is precious and they want to use it to go within, to learn about themselves and to explore their hobbies, their interests. And that kind of brings me to the next one. I'll just add that right now, and that is the hobbies that I just mentioned. And this goes hand in hand with the free time. So the thing I wanted to say about hobbies is specifically is a lot of people think that a hobby is just how you spend your time, and it's not necessarily exactly that. Hobbies are they're activities that you do that benefit you as a person and expand your consciousness and your soul. They help you grow. So when you look at it that way, going shopping and going to parties and watching TV and drinking and those sorts of things, they're not really helping you grow. So a hobby is something like being creative in any way, being in nature, enjoying nature. And that's a whole nother one I'll go into in a little bit is nature. But say, for example, photography. Let's say you want to learn photography that is going to help you grow as a person. Let's say you want to learn a skill, learning how to play a musical instrument. Like I said, anything creative. Those are the difference between hobbies and just passing the time. So the free time that you have, you're going to learn that it's valuable and precious and you're not going to want to waste it. So that's um, how I tie those together. So I'm going to go to the next one now, and that is your eating habits. So this can be one that if you're just trying to be healthier, yeah. But this is also going to be a side effect, if I can, that's probably a bad term, but an effect of spiritual awakening is that you're not going to want to put bad things into your body anymore. When you're a teenager and in your 20s, you're most likely going to eat fast food a lot. You're most likely going to be drinking. And those things, they're fine. I think everybody needs to go through them. And this is another thing I wanted to mention is I kind of went through them longer than most people do. I I was literally almost I was turning 40 in a bar, and spending time in bars, it's expensive, it's bad for your health, and I really regret it. If I could change anything about my life, it would be that I wouldn't drink so much and I would have grown out of that phase a lot sooner. And is not eating fast food as much as I did. I mean, I my first job was McDonald's, so I I ate a lot of bad food in my life. And I think that most people grow out of that phase, but when you're going through a spiritual awakening, it's going to shine a light on that. It's going to make you see the bad habits in your life. And this is another thing I want to say about spiritual awakening is that it's not a bad thing like people make it out to be. People are always complaining that when they go through a spiritual awakening, they feel bad things. And you might feel bad things, but it is because you are learning about your true self. You're discovering your true self, and what that is doing is it's shining a light on all the things that are not you. So that's probably an even better way to sum up what a spiritual awakening is. It's shedding away all the things that are not you, all of the habits that are not good for you. And so this eating habits is it's a big one because when you finally get to the point where, you're eating better and you're wanting to put better things in your body, that's a sign because your soul does not want bad food. Your body doesn't care. Your body probably loves it, but when you start getting in touch with your soul and your mind, those things are going to tell you. Your intuition's going to tell you that it's, bad habits. Habits is what makes you, you know, changing yourself, growing and evolving. It's all because of habits and it's all because of your daily routine and the things that you, like there's a saying in Ayurveda, that you are what you eat, you are what you digest. And that's a whole nother subject, but you're also what you experience. You are what you let in through your senses. And I actually have a blog post about this. And that kind of goes along with this eating habits one is anything that you take into your body, whether it's through your eyes, your ears, your nose, your touching, tasting, it all affects your consciousness. It all affects your vibration. So when you're spiritually awakening, you're only going to want the best of those things. So I'm going to move on to the next one now, which is, I've already done hobbies. Okay, so the next one is life purpose. And this is a huge subject, and I've done a, I've done a blog post about this, and I will probably do more videos about this. But I think that a life purpose is the reason why we have spiritual awakenings in the first place. Because when you're discovering your true self, that's when you want to know what your life purpose is. And it's been proven that having a life purpose, a living one, and knowing what it is, actually helps you be happier. So, this is something that I think everybody came to this world to do is to shed the illusion of the ego to discover your true self, and that involves finding your life purpose. So that's all I'm going to say about that because that's too big of a subject for this video. I'm just going to go over some of these briefly. So I'll make another video on that again. All right, number 8 is nature. So spending time in nature is something that not a lot of people do willingly or purposefully, but it's something that you're going to be drawn to when you're spiritually awakening. I never used to be an outdoorsy person. I mean, growing up as a kid, yeah, I'd spend time outside, but I never really cared if I did or not. I really didn't get into camping. I just didn't think much about it. But the more spiritually awakened you get, the more you're going to feel in touch with nature. And this is a spiritual thing because we are nature, we are part of it. And when you're in nature, that's when you feel spiritually connected to the world. So, wanting to spend time in nature is a sign that you are spiritually awakening. And also, if you have hobbies connected to nature. And one of those hobbies I want to go over, this kind of deserves its own, and I did write a blog post about this, but it's camping. Camping is one of the most healthiest things you can do for your body, for your mind, and for your soul, because you're practically living outside for the weekend. You're setting your circadian rhythms back to normal. You're just immersed in nature. So camping is something that I've gotten into more recently. And this is if you don't like sleeping in a tent, that's understandable. I don't either. I bought a camper. If you can't afford a camper, there's ways to go camping without a tent. You can stay in a cabin. They have yurts, which is a big round teepee looking tent, but it's kind of like glamping. You're not just roughing it. You might even have electricity. So things like that. There's a lot of options for getting out in nature if you're not an outdoorsy person. But chances are, if you're going through a spiritual awakening, it will turn you into an outdoorsy person. All right, so I'm going to go over the last one now, which is people and friends. I don't know if you have heard this term, this phrase before, but it's popular with the entrepreneurial world that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with. So if you look around and you see people that are just, they're okay with the status quo, they're okay with going shopping, going out to the bars, sitting on the couch watching TV, then that's what you're going to be. If you're sitting around people like that and you start to have these little thoughts that you want to do bigger and better things, that's a sign that you should either, and here's where you have options. You don't have to stop being friends with these people. You can put more balance into your life, spend more time with yourself, spend more time with other people. It doesn't mean you have to cut these people out, but it could mean that you should cut them out or have to cut them out. Um, so yeah, that's something that a lot of people go through, and that's one of the most common things people say about spiritual awakening is that they either don't feel like they can connect with their friends anymore, or they want to be alone. Those are normal things. Those are completely normal to go through. It's one of the most common signs of a spiritual awakening that your friends are changing. So this is not something that you should feel guilty about. And if you do feel guilty, there's ways that you can minimize that feeling of guilt. You can um, just have more boundaries when it comes to your free time. Don't always say, yes, I'll hang out with everybody every time. It's okay to say, I need to stay home today because I really wanted to write this chapter in my book, those sorts of things. So I think I've kind of covered everything in a general way about these subjects, and I'm probably going to go through each one of these and make more in-depth videos on them because I really think that the way that spiritual awakening affects your life, all of the ways they kind of fall into all these categories. Either media, the media that you consume, the way you spend your free time, the things that you do in your free time, your habits, your lifestyle, and the people around you. Those are all the areas that are affected. Your whole entire life is affected, really. And that's a good thing because spiritual awakening it's a period of growth. It's a period of change and evolving. So if you took anything out of this video, let it be this, that spiritual awakening is not a bad thing. It can be uncomfortable, but it's just discovering your true self. It's just dropping the illusion of ego. It's dropping all of the conditions and programs that the world has put into you. And this is why it feels like a bad thing. because you're changing so much. It's a complete difference. And it's like the butterfly that comes out of the caterpillar. It doesn't question it, it just goes through it, and it sucks for a while, but hopefully it won't suck as bad as it would have if you didn't know that this is normal. So I really hope that this video helped you, and if it did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you want more videos about spiritual awakening, about holistic health, about all of these subjects. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.